lot of people.
All right, well, why don't we kick things off by just introducing yourselves and saying a little bit about your company.
Hey everybody, my name is Christina Spang. I'm the founder and CTO of a company called Nihilus. We're a developer platform that makes it really easy to connect email, contacts, and calendar to other applications, to automate workflows, to drive insights. If you have any of these kinds of problems, check us out. We can help.
I'm Simon Wistow. I am the co-founder of Fastly, which is an edge computing network. We have customers like Reddit, New York Times, SpaceX, and a whole bunch more.
I'm Emil Eifrem, CEO and co-founder of Neo4j, which is a graph database company used by every single one of the 20 biggest banks in North America, as an example, 75% of the Fortune 100. Gave a talk earlier today about reducing hallucination in generative AI using knowledge graphs. So that's one of the very popular, more emerging use cases for graph databases.
So we're here to talk about technical leadership. When you're building a developer-centric company, let's just kind of like unpack that term a little bit. What does technical leadership mean to each of you?
You want to kick things off, Sam? You seem like you have something burning to say.
I feel like it's going to be, we're all three very different kind of sizes of companies. So I think there's an interesting kind of difference between what we're talking about. I mean, for us, right at the start, you've got to get the platform built. By the time you're up to sort of our size, 1,200 people, like hundreds of millions of dollars revenue, it's more about setting the vision and the direction of the company than it is like sort of the deep down operational, the really nitty gritty operational parts of it. But I think it's probably going to be different for both of you.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I think I have a pretty typical path for a company of my size. We're a growth stage startup. I started out as essentially like the engineer building the back end. And I've had to kind of grow with the company. The things that I think that have been the most difficult and interesting to learn is that as the company gets bigger, obviously your job becomes less and less about writing the code, being in the trenches, actually sort of creating the product. And it becomes more about, there's different flavors of technical leadership, but at this stage, it's a lot about communication and translating. I guess one thing that I've really learned is that, the thing that makes us successful as sort of engineers in these trenches is being incredibly detail-oriented and all about sort of getting every little thing right so that the system works. And once you kind of progress to kind of growing a team and building the business itself, the job becomes more about interfacing with all the other departments in the company, being able to take all that really complex technical speak and use it to get things done with people who really are not like you in a lot of sort of core fundamental ways. And I think that's one of the things that's most difficult in terms of skill sets to build up, because it's not really what made us successful in the trenches and sort of not what got us to where we were in the first place.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think, like Simon said, we're 3 stages of startups here. And as I reflect on my journey and our journey, we're 800 people right now, 250 to 300 person engineering organization, something like that. A lot of it comes down to kind of level of scope and abstraction. Like initially, exactly to your point, Christine, it's like your job is to build the product. And it might be 1 or 2 or 3 of you, and that's the scope of how you're thinking about it, right? As the organization grows in size, then you might have team responsibility, and then the job is to get the team to operate on that. The atom is the team, and your job is to get that team to operate, which, to your point, is a very different skill set from being able to build amazing lines of code at the end of the day, right? And then you grow over, and you become the SVP engineering, VP engineering, something like this. And then it's like, right, how do I structure the engineering organization, the machine, to generate as much output as possible? And then over time, in my case, it's like, right, how do you organize the company, right? Like how do you get sales and marketing and developer relations and engineering and PM to function together? And so it really is that level, different levels of scope and abstraction of technical leadership as the company grows as a function of the size of the company.
So it wouldn't be a Web Summit 2023 panel if I didn't ask about AI and how AI is changing your companies. Sorry, but I have to do it. But just from a technical leadership perspective, I mean, I have so many questions. I mean, one, are there entire sets of jobs that are now made redundant? How are you hiring differently? And I'm also wondering if you all were starting your companies today with the AI innovations that we now have, how would you sort of structure them differently? I know it's a three-pronged question, but if you all would just kind of riff on it.
Yeah, I mean, for us, so we're a sort of Series C growth stage startup. Our engineering teams, it's only about 50 people, so smaller than Simon or Emil's teams. But when it comes to kind of AI, it is something that across my entire company, the whole company is about 130 people, and we're thinking really deeply about how this impacts who we hire, how we're structuring the work, how things sort of pass between different teams. And I think a lot of startup founders that I talk to are like pretty optimistic that the new tools that are coming about allow people to get more done without having to have so many boundaries between different types of teams, because you can essentially have more end-to-end ownership, because a generalist can almost outsource like the expertise of sort of specific things to an intelligent system that happens to know the entire internet. So for us, what changes today is we've been really encouraging all of our teams to become experts in all the tools out there. And when we're hiring, we look for folks who can creatively make use of whatever, ChatGPT, Copilot. For us, it's considered a positive. And we really believe that sort of driving efficiency also really empowers the people that we have on our teams, because it's more fun to actually like see end-to-end the output of your work rather than sort of like create widget X and then you pass it to whatever team, or if you're on marketing, having to sort of outsource different pieces, being able to create a graphic for a newsletter by yourself. That's something that's really empowering. So we really believe that sort of these AI native people are going to succeed, and the companies that encourage the most adoption are going to be the ones that essentially become the leaders over the next few years.
I think this, you asked the question in three parts, and I think there's three parts to the answer. So you gave it. I'm going to give it back.
Convoluted. Sorry.
I think there's one thing, which is we didn't lose programmers when we stopped like putting operating systems in by toggling the front, the switches on the front of a case, or punching holes in a card and putting through a feed reader, a card reader. So I think like making things easier is going to open up the market. I don't think it's going to take jobs away. Like internally, I think we have kind of a different experience from you. Like, part of our job is, we already use AI internally. We use it for our internal networking routing. We use it inside our image optimization, do smart cropping. We do a whole bunch of stuff with AI. And our jobs are kind of, as leaders at that point, is to evaluate these new technologies coming in and decide, is it worth the hype? Is it worth looking into, or is it just a fad? Is it just whatever's at the top of Hacking News this week? Which is very rarely a good thing. And then the third thing we've got as a public company, when we do quarterly earnings calls or end of years calls or analyst calls, they're going to be asking these same things. They're going to be asking about AI. They're going to be asking about crypto. And we then have to come up with a really coherent answer, which explains where we are in it. Whether or not it's relevant or not, like some stuff you get asked a question, it's not actually relevant. Sometimes it is, and you have to come up with a good answer. So we end up coming at it from a very different point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're bigger, you also, you have to have a more measured take towards these things, because, the bigger you are, the more you have to lose. So yeah, it makes sense.
I think for all of us here, the three of us, everyone here in this crowd, there's exactly three buckets where AI can place a role. Right? The first one is internal productivity. This is all your developers using GitHub Copilot. This is marketing using it for copy. This is your CEO using it to draft emails, whatever it might be, right? That's internal efficiency. We just had a panel just now about VCs and the investor climate, efficient growth. Really, really relevant, I think, for all of us. I think the second bucket is using generative AI to back features of your application. So if you're a software company, you're building a product, okay, either the entire product or features in that product is backed by AI. That's the second bucket. I think that's applicable to everyone. I think the third one is applicable to maybe some, maybe not others, which is how can your technology be a building block when people build AI applications? This one happens to be applicable for us because knowledge graphs is such an amazing fit with LLMs, right? That, between those three buckets, I personally spend most of my time on the third one because there's already other people in the company who can help drive 1 and 2.
This is kind of the nitty-gritty of hiring engineers question I have. Say there's a really seasoned, capable senior software engineer at a FANG company and you're trying to hire this person, and you really want to sort of convey the culture of your company to this person and make the case that they should move over. How would you make that pitch?
I can go first for that one if you want. I could start.
And keeping it thematic, right? Like specifically when it comes to being a company that really sort of like embraces being a technical leader and trying to say this is going to really sort of like expedite and really sort of like strengthen your technical skills, right? Being in a shop like that.
So this is a problem we actually have like on a daily basis, and we regularly talk about it because we run such a significant proportion of all web traffic. We are dealing with huge quantity traffic. We need FANG level engineers. And so we need some reason, but Google gives you 5 meals a day and hot and cold running massages and like they'll do your dry cleaning for you and things like that. Massive bonuses and signing bonuses and things like that. Their comp package are insane. And we can't compete with that. We are not Google level. So we need some other reason for them to come and work with us. And I think there's two things. One is from a professional point of view, they can be a big fish in a smaller pond. Like 1,200 is a big company for a startup, but it's a small company compared to a big multinational. So they get to have an outsized effect on that. They get to work on really cool research projects which have really, really direct effects. Like the people working for us on sort of experimenting with WASM and WebAssembly and TCP congestion and things like that and kernel level optimizations. The other way we do it is we can say we have to present a company that is a company that people feel proud of that they come and work for us. And so that's where our D&I strategy comes in. It's where our social outreach, we give an enormous amount of services away to huge open source projects, everything from Kubernetes and MIT Scratch to other, sort of other projects, Ruby gems and stuff like that. And so we want a place that people feel like, oh, I want to go work there because I feel proud to work there, that they represent my values, and that this is a place that feel like thrive. And that's not so. It's directly related to our technical strategy, but it means you have to think a little broader than just you get to work on whatever latest cool technology it is.
For us, it's lots of details, but it really comes down to 2 words. The first one is impact. The other one is culture. Right, impact. Thanks to Neo4j, humanity is going to get to Mars 2 years earlier. There's 20 independent projects using Neo4j to find the cure for cancer. Right, we were instrumental in the Panama Papers, which is shedding light on investigative journalism, helping save democracy is how we humbly summarize it. Impact. That's the first one. The second one is culture. We're a very relationship-centric company where we try to be very collaborative, very inclusive, very combining empathy with accountability, and use that as honestly as a competitive differentiator when we hire. Impact and culture, those are the 2 things.
Yeah, the number one thing that employees say that they love about working at Nihilus is the autonomy. So we're a small company, 130 people. The amount of control that you have over your working day, how you get stuff done, who you're working with, is unparalleled at a company like that compared to going and working for one of the big tech companies. We actually make sure up front that people are looking for that experience, because for folks that are looking to go somewhere that's super structured, that sort of provides them with a lot of scaffolding, it's really not the right environment for them to go to a growth stage startup where we're still kind of building out all of the infrastructure. But it is a unique opportunity where someone can go and work on sort of a internet plumbing level of infrastructure. We power 1,000+ applications, and we're mission critical infrastructure for all those apps. We process a lot of data going through our systems, and it needs to happen in near real time and be up all of the time, which are really interesting, deep distributed system problems that it's really unique to be able to work on that kind of thing in a smaller company and essentially kind of build the foundation for the future. So We really just look for people that are really excited about that kind of opportunity and want to use Nihilus as a shiny thing on their resume. My co-founder, who's our CEO, likes to say, my job is to make you as rich and as famous as you want to be. And that's really what I feel like makes me happy as a founder, for folks that come do great work at Nihilus. When they go off elsewhere, I want to see that people look at someone's resume and see Nihilus as being a really positive thing. That means that person's a really amazing engineer and someone who's really great to work with. And that's how I measure my success.
This question is for developers, young developers, junior developers out there who are trying to land their first startup job. Say you have 3 full-stack devs who are pretty comparable, and you're trying to just hire one of them. What is maybe one non-obvious thing that maybe would distinguish one person from the pack? Something each of you look for that is not just something that's glaringly obvious.
We love seeing open source experience. Like, send me, yes, your LinkedIn profile, CV, whatever, but man, send us your GitHub repo, right? Like, and we want to look at that, right? So is that obvious, not obvious? I don't know, but we love seeing that.
We used to, back at a previous company, we used to have 2 different, when we interviewed people, we used to have to give 2 different scores. One was like kind of technical ability, and the other one was what we called Eye of the Tiger. And it was just like, that had no specific term, but it was like just that difference of, oh, this person's really enthusiastic, this person's really passionate. When they start talking about something, their eyes light up, their hands start moving around. Like, so just that sense of, maybe even if they're not quite technically as good, we feel like this person's got that enthusiasm and that like drive to go and do, to really, really push themselves.
Yeah. Again, we're a smaller company, and we really want to see people who care about the business. When you're a junior engineer, that means something different than if you're, a big executive, but it means being tuned in to like, what is the downstream impact of whatever thing that you're working on and building. It means asking interesting questions about sort of how what you're going to be building ties into the customers, and also just sort of expressing the curiosity that shows that you're going to be on sort of a high slope of learning.
So it's kind of a lightning round because we have about 50 seconds left. What do you see from a technical leadership point of view changing and staying the same in the next, say, 3 to 5 years at your companies?
I mean, I think there's some stuff which has been the same ever since programming became a job. Like, right back, all the way back to Jacquard limbs. It's like this ability to think more structurally and to not always be sort of resume-driven development, and to start thinking kind of, have that ability to think slightly longer term and sort of more sort of broadly about what you're building.
I think intrinsic motivation, genuine curiosity about the field will, over the long arc of your career, create a better engineer than not. I think that's going to be true 3 to 5 years from now.
I'm going to talk about something that I think is going to change. I think AI coding assistants are essentially the new low-code, no-code, and that means that your sales, marketing, all of these other functions are going to get up to a lot more trouble. And I actually think it's exciting that other people are better able to sort of harness computers.
Thanks, everyone. This was great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Go back this way.